sworn to defending the U.S. Constitution, quietly support and are working toward this agenda.
You know, there was a time when an elected official in the United States government who has taken an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution could have gone to jail for treason, or maybe even have his life taken through the death penalty for treason by defying the Constitution and trying to overthrow that. And yet today we have a number of examples of current or former elected officials talking about world government rather openly, talking about the need for a world constitution to replace our U.S. Constitution. And they are actively working to bring this about.
At the heart of this drive toward a new world order is the Council on Foreign Relations. When asked about its powerful sister organization, the Trilateral Commission, CFR insider Winston Lord said, "The Trilateral Commission doesn't run the world, the Council on Foreign Relations does that." But what is this secretive group, and how much influence can an unelected men's club have?
Well, I think to come to a conclusion on how powerful they are, you would have to do a statistical analysis of just how many of our leaders have belonged to the Council on Foreign Relations. I did that a number of years ago, prior to the Clinton administration. We went back and looked at who held the top 5 positions in the U.S. government going back to around World War II. We took the presidency, the Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Defense, and the National Security Advisor. And I added up all the people that had held those 5 positions. There were a total of 60. Of those 60 individuals, 48 of them were members of the Council on Foreign Relations. That's 80%. In the Clinton administration, until recently, it was 100%. Currently in the Clinton administration, there are just over 500 people from the Council on Foreign Relations who hold key positions.
In addition to the fact, we have people out there, shadowy figures if you wish, who are controlling the financial destiny of this country, and we have no control over what they decide. They are international figures in many cases, or they're people who have vested interests other than what the vested interests of freedom that we have in this country.
No matter how well-intentioned the efforts of those to produce a new world order may be, when those efforts take place covertly and without our consent, the specter of conspiracy is raised. Equally troubling is the fact that at the core of the globalist agenda is their determination that North American freedoms, both political and economic, must be brought in line with that of our would-be global partners in the emerging New World Order. This will mean that our standard of living, as well as our expectation of freedom, must be decreased. This will bring us in line with the reality and principles of socialism.
In a socialist world, the right of private property is eroded. The state is king and the citizen is subject. Could it take place in America? Is this where we are being led? And how far down the road to a socialist world have we traveled? Recent examples are raising serious concerns. Take the case of Willie Jones. In February of 1991, Willie Jones was on his way to Houston to buy shrubs for his nursery business. It was simply another regular part of his regular routine.
We have a flight that leaves within 45 minutes.
Okay, I'll take it.
Okay, that'll be $260, please. Do you have any baggage that needs to be checked?
No.
Look at this. Just because he paid with cash, he's suspicious.
There you are, you'll be
He might be a terrorist.
Thank you. Yes, security. I'd like to alert you to a man named Willie Jones. He just left a couple minutes ago. About 5'8", was wearing a black and white shirt, black jeans, runners. No, sir, he paid by cash. Yes, he is traveling alone. No, sir, he did not have any baggage.
As is the case in most American airports today, The fact that Willie paid for his airline ticket in cash was considered to be suspicious enough for the ticket agent to tip off federal agents. But the story doesn't end there.
Have a seat. What's your name?
Willie.
Let's see some ID, Willie. What else you got in there?
I've got money.
What kind of money?
$9,600.
$9,600 bucks. That's a lot of money. Let's have a look. You can buy a lot of things with that $9,600. Well, now, that's a lot of money. What are you doing with this kind of money?
I go down to the shrubberies and I buy cash products. The farmers will only accept cash. That's it.
That's a lot of money to be walking around with, Will. Is that all you buy down there, Willie? Tell me the truth. Who are you giving this money to?
I'm giving it to the shrubberies.
What do you got in the bag?
I just got my belongings.
Let's have a look. Where's home, Willie?
New York.
Come here often?
Yes, I do.
Always carry $9,600 bucks with you?
No, I told you, I gotta go down to the shrubberies. They take cash, only cash.
Tell me about the shrubberies.
Well, I have a nursery and I go down there, I pay for once, twice a year.
Is that all you buy?
No, that's just, listen, I told you, I'm going down to buy shrubberies. That's all I can do. They take cash.
Give me a reason to believe you, Willie.
What am I gonna do?
You tell me. You ever been busted before?
No, I haven't.
Sit. There you go. That's all you get.
In testimony before the House Government Operations Subcommittee hearing on such forfeiture, it was found that Jones was not charged with any crime, that he had no criminal record, and that he made such trips regularly. Yet the committee heard how that Jones, after showing the evidence, was then forced to prove to authorities that he deserved the $9,600 that was taken from him back. Moreover, he had to post a 10% bond before the process of appeal could even begin. A lawyer close to the case noted that these procedures, introduced under the guise of fighting drug trafficking, allow the government to dispossess property owners based only on hearsay and innuendo evidence of insufficient reliability to be admissible in a court of law. Is this really an effort to crack down on criminals, or are law-abiding citizens and their properties now the targets of government agencies out of control?
Total control.
Consider the facts. An estimated 80% of the people whose property is seized by the government are never charged with a crime. Authorities often argue that the money can be tied to drugs because traces of cocaine can be found on the bills of the people whose property they seize. But the FBI has now admitted that 80% of the bills in circulation today are tainted by traces of drugs. A 7-year-long independent study by a private firm, Toxicology Consultants Incorporated, put the figure at 96%. This clearly puts every American at risk. Nonetheless, law enforcement agencies press ahead. In a written opinion for the Second U.S. Court of Appeals, Judge George C. Pratt wrote, "We continue to be enormously troubled by the government's increasing and unchecked use of civil forfeiture statutes, with disregard for due process."
There was a case in western New York in Batavia where a young fellow was practicing horticulture in a way not pleasing to the government. He was growing marijuana among the tomato plants. His mother owned the farm. She lived 40 miles away, but she lost the farm because the marijuana was on her property. And the judge said she should have known that her son was growing the marijuana plants. Now, even so, the fact that why should she pay such a heavy penalty for somebody else's crime?
These instances go to the core of our constitutional rights and more. This is about what can only be considered the theft of property. No trial, no conviction, simply suspicion. Big Brother is acting suspiciously, and many are beginning to ask why.
The crime bill that was passed in 1994, that was supposed to be such a broad thing, it has in it, in the rural drug enforcement section of it, a provision that if a person is under investigation, that the government can confiscate that person's property. It doesn't say anything about convictions. It doesn't even say anything about arresting that person. Just being under investigation and the property can be taken. Now, to me, that is a big violation of due process.
There is no better example of this than the case of Johnny Sotelo.
What seems to be the problem here? My check is only heated. Have you called the central dispatch yet? No, not yet. It's only happened now. Look, maybe we can help you get this rig on its way. I think we might have something here. I want this back door open. Come with me. You know, seen a lot of drugs come to this country. Yeah, exactly like this. Heavy equipment fire. Nothing. So where's your heavy equipment, boy? This is the empty truck. I put you the auction. You got in the bag. We knew we had a hot one. This is in here. I got 22,000. As of right now, I'm confiscating this vehicle and all the cash under the grounds of suspicious behavior. What do you mean suspicious? I consider $23,000 in cash suspicious behavior. I go to the auction. There's ample evidence to suggest criminal behavior. Sorry, pal. You lose. Block on our side.
The Johnny Sotelo story should send chills down the spine of every American. He was not arrested. He was never charged with a crime. For 2 years, he fought with the sheriff's office of Jefferson Davis Parish in Louisiana for the return of his $23,000.
There's way too many other interests. Okay, yeah.
Finally, under no legal pressure of any kind, the sheriff's office offered him a deal.
Okay, send him in.
The return of his truck and half the money.
I got your check
Sotelo
right here.
accepted, and the sheriff's office pocketed $11,500.
What does all this mean? When we examine all the pieces of this puzzle, a very threatening picture emerges. The monitoring, tracking, and surveillance of citizens is growing at an alarming rate. National databases and a universal identity card are under development. And now, government agencies are routinely confiscating property of law-abiding citizens every week. Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it. In light of the evidence that we have examined here, there is a disturbing pattern of evidence of growing government intrusiveness on our traditional rights and freedoms. The tragic history of this century of Nazi Germany, of Communist China and Russia has shown that this has led step by step to the development of a police state. And if history repeats itself, we will witness a growing attack on the citizen's ability to defend himself against these intrusions. The history of this century shows that virtually every dictatorship first limited the citizen's ability to defend himself by disarming the citizens before imposing a police state.
If guns are taken away from the people, it eliminates any chance, even a remote possibility of an armed
One more
revolt
video.
should a dictatorial government arrive, such as was the case in Nazi Germany. I believe all the talk about gun control to get guns away from the people because of the crime doesn't hold a lot of water. The states with the